had an hour and a half. The opponents will have an hour and a half till 11 o'clock. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name for the record is Tayln Lang, Tayln Lang, L-A-N-G. I'm going to talk about a couple of things here. First and foremost, a lot of talk has been made about the will or what the intention of the will of the voters was. I'd like to remind the committee here that this bill passed by 62% of Montana voters. There were only 4 House districts that this bill was voted on and had support by a measure of 50% or less, with the least being 47.3%, I believe, and the highest being 79.1% in House District 99. I think that that's fairly significant, because when we start talking about, you know, what was the will and the intention of the voters when they went into this voting booth, I think that it's kind of scary for us to put ourselves in there and say, okay, we think that this is what they were looking for, this is what they may have wanted to be voting for. So with that being said, I just want to bring up a couple of points here. I am in opposition to this bill. I believe it's an attempt to restrict patient access to medicine by creating a big government model. The government system to do this would be fairly large. It basically sets up a system to monitor, oversee, license, and penalize through a mishmash of state licensing authorities, Board of Medical Examiners, Department of Revenue, Medical Advisory Board, and even compels law enforcement to get involved in the transporting, storing, and responding to complaints. It compels a person to seek intense monitoring from medical professionals for something that's relegated to being therapeutic. It's no longer medical marijuana. This is now we're talking about therapeutic marijuana. And there's less oversight for narcotic pain medication than there would be for medical use of cannabis in this system. It limits the forms of medicine that are available to probationers without any relationship to their underlying offense. Article 2, Section 3 of the Montana's Constitution says it's the inalienable right for Montanans to pursue health through all lawful means. 75% of this bill is designed to restrict, penalize, and criminalize activity related basically for something that's for a health purpose. Montanans are entitled privacy and equal protection in our application of our laws. Participants in this program would give up both. There's much less restriction over narcotic use and abuse than there is over medical cannabis use under this system. At the same time, this attempts to limit the number of patients to about 2,000, and it keeps providers from making any money. It seeks to create an enormous administrative system based upon not much activity. If we have only 2,000 patients, then why do we need so much regulation and oversight? It's big government with no way to self-sustain. It compels records which could and would be seized by the federal government without protections. So this does not protect our citizens. It doesn't define what significantly adverses the health, safety, or welfare of children. This is particularly frightening for parents who do have children. Would their children be taken away from them simply for being patients of a Medical Cannabis Act? It compels law enforcement to establish a system to track courier activity. And how will they do that? Law enforcement has already gotten up and stated their concern as to how this would actually look like and work in the real world. Every time a courier is having to leave a production facility and go and make delivery, they would have to call law enforcement and let them know where they were going and what they were doing. This logistically, I just don't think would be very feasible, and I don't think that the law enforcement community would like to have to babysit these folks. One of the things that's particularly concerning for me here in this bill as well is that cash is legal tender for all debts, public and private. If any of you have a dollar bill in your pocket, I'm sure that you can pull it out, and it says this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. When we're restricting to any transaction that occurs to this with electronic means, then I think that really goes against, what we should be doing here as far as allowing people to use money in the way that they see fit. The fees that are associated with this are fairly arbitrary. Late renewal fees, for instance, have a $500 fee. It appears to be punitive in nature, not connected for any need. It also says that there's no allowance for non-licensees to be in limited areas. Okay, so for example, you have somebody who works on an air conditioning system in one of these production facilities, or a contracted electrician, or people like that would be restricted and not able to go into these production facilities under this current statute. I would say that absolutely prohibiting advertising does have First Amendment implications. Commercial speech is not the most protected speech out there, but there are some rights to that. And the state licensing authority takes on the role of the investigator, judge, and jury when it comes to criminal offenses like diversion. So basically the bottom line here is that this creates big government in many significant ways and compels agencies to accommodate aspects of this bill without direction of how to pay for it. It further limits the number of participants and the earning potential, reducing the ability of the people who are involved in this to pay for it. Numerous constitutional protections are violated pursuant of health, equal protection, privacy, and freedom of speech. It implies the repeal of a voter initiative without stating the constitutional or statutory basis for doing so in light of Article 2, Section 1. All political power is vested in and derived from the people. All government of right originates with the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. And it also limits the doctor's ability to discuss health alternatives by imposing liability, government scrutiny, and prohibits compensation. With that, I will finish. Thank you very much for your time, and I do oppose this bill.